So if you want a textbook example of what Donald Trump is referring to when he's talking about the swamp, it's not just Washington, D.C. It's also New York City. Example this morning, wake up, read my friend John McCarry's post about the battle for minority leader of the New York City Council, Republican minority leader of the New York City Council. It's apparently a battle between Joann, Ariola, and David Carr. David Carr is a councilman from Staten Island, where the current minority leader, Joe Borelli, is from. Borelli is leaving the New York City Council to become a lobbyist. A lobbyist. Now, he's already named the company he's going to partner with as a lobbyist, work for as a lobbyist. And I don't know personally, maybe others do, whether or not that company has business before the city of New York. But assuming they do, I assume they do, because they're hiring Joe Borelli, whose resume is mostly being a city politician, as a state assemblyman, a little bit, short period of time, couple of years, and mostly as a New York City councilman. So Borelli is leaving to become a lobbyist, assumedly a lobbyist for people with interests before the city. And if he is not doing it directly, are his partners at his lobbying firm lobbying the city council or anybody in city government for their clients? No one knows that I know of. But let's assume they are. So Joe Borelli is picking David Carr as his successor as minority leader, or attempting to pick him, by resigning as minority leader early, so he has a vote in the race between Ariola and David Carr. Then he leaves hours later. Borelli will leave the council hours later and become a lobbyist, where he can go back to David Carr as minority leader and say, hey, Dave, I installed you as minority leader, or he doesn't have to say it, it's implied. Dave, I need a favor. We have a client who needs this or that. This is a classic example of what Donald Trump is talking about when he refers to the swamp. And I'll give you a really easy example of how this could become a real problem. So John McCarry is terminated from his position because he doesn't get vaccinated. And let's say it's in the best interests of the pharmaceutical industry that everyone is mandated to be vaccinated with their vaccines. Let's use Pfizer as an example. These are all examples. I'm not saying any of this is literally what's happening. But let's say Pfizer is a client of Joe Borelli's new lobbying firm. Let's use that as an example. Pfizer's a client of Joe Borelli's new lobbying firm. Joann Ariola is against mandates for these vaccines, against the continuation of punitive punishment for people who have turned down the vaccine. And let's say David Carr, these are all examples, is willing to do the bidding of his friend Joe Borelli, who's leaving the council to become a lobbyist. And that Joe Borelli's lobbying firm represents Pfizer. Should Joe Borelli have a vote in the race between anti-mandate, vax mandate Ariola and have influence over member David Carr, who Borelli is trying to install as leader? Carr is a person who, according to John McCarry, did nothing. Did nothing as the council rep for John McCary when he lived in his district. Did nothing to try to protect John and people like John on this vaccine mandate issue. This is an example of why Joe Borelli is being completely unethical here. And any Republican that participates in this type of a thing, allowing Borelli to cast a vote, is complicit in this type of swamp-like behavior. So every Republican on the New York City Council who believes in Donald Trump and who believes in the swamp and that the swamp must be stopped, any one of them that is participating in this farce with Borelli casting a vote for Carr, if that's what he does, against Ariola, while not disclosing who his clients are or his company's clients. And even if he did, why is a guy who's not going to be serving on the city council casting a vote for the leadership of people who will be serving on the city council after he's gone? It's ridiculous, completely ridiculous, and it's the first move of what you can clearly see is an attempt to keep the Republican Party on the city council neutered and compliant with the Democratic supermajority, in my opinion.